Well, hello, good evening, and welcome to the Caithness Amateur Dram Antics Society. Tonight I'm going to do a Battle of the Blends 2. A few weeks ago I did a Battle of the Blends where I had three iterations of Famous Grouse Standard, Black Grouse and Snow Grouse. We had a Bell's and we had a McLean's Nose, and we compared them and contrasted them. I thought we'd try a Battle of the Blends too, and this one we're going a bit more upmarket, some of the more luxury deluxe blends. So we've got five blends here tonight. We've got Johnnie Walker Green Label 15-year-old, bottled at 43%. Chivas Regal 15 or XV, bottled at 40%. Johnnie Walker Blue Label, bottled at 40%. Berry Brothers and Rudd's The Perspective Series 21-year-old, bottled at 43%. And Old Perth Cask Strength, bottled at 58.6%. The Johnnie Walker Green Label and the Old Perth Cask Strength are both blended malts, so they don't contain any grain, and the others are all blended Scotch whiskies, and they do contain grain. So first up, we have the Johnnie Walker Green Label 15-year-old. I'm tasting samples of all these. I don't have actual bottles of them. I have samples. So this is Johnnie Walker Green Label 15-year-old, bottled at 43%. And it's around £40 a bottle. It's one of those harder to find whiskies in shops and in bars. It's 15 years old, blended malt, which was awarded an impressive 95 points in Jim Murray's 2010 Whiskey Bible. It's a blend of single malts, not a blended Scotch. It has no grain whiskey in it. And importantly, it has a 15-year age statement. It has, on the bottle, if you can get the bottle, it has Cool Ila and Talisker proudly displayed as key ingredients from the Diageo portfolio. Diageo, of course, bottle Johnnie Walker nowadays. And it's sadly chill filtered, so it's quite a pale colour. It has lovely tears, actually, this one. And it's a refreshingly fruity start. Lemons, oranges, honey, and beeswax, which all complement the elegant and round first impression. It's a rich malt mixture, candied pineapple and mango, and a relaxed oakiness and a certain nuttiness. And given there's Kilila and Talisker in this, there is a small cloud of smoke wafting in the background, and vanilla. It's quite complex on the nose, but it has a dessert character combined with fresh fruit and a sort of maritime, marine character coming from the Talisker and Kulila, I suspect. You can feel caramel, dried fruit, pears, and some freshness, lemongrass and citrus. It's quite light on the nose, but yeah, definitely a sort of fruity, fresh fruity vanilla, bit of maltiness, some nuttiness. Not a lot of spice in this one. We'll try the mouth. and it's well balanced. You can feel the sweetness of fresh fruit and that clear woody note with the addition of the maritime influence. There is a little more spiciness on the mouth, but it's under control. You still get the honey, the blossom honey with beeswax, apples and oranges, uh, candied pineapple, hazelnut nugget, almonds, and very light bitter almonds, and it's a cream and malty barley. Then the mild oak pushes on. A sort of dark milk chocolate, vanilla. And it has quite a long finish. Woodiness dominates with some fresh fruit and that maritime character again. Toasted mild oak, cardamom, a bit more spice on the finish, some pepper, vanilla, a little licorice. A few crumbs of lemon zest, bitter almonds, milk chocolate, brittle, a slight minerality, and that's a minimally smoky, ashy note. Sandalwood lingers and dried apricots. I'm going to try 4 drops of water in this. So this is chill filtered, and there's no Scotch mist there at all. On water, you get more fruitiness, some honey, some caramel, maltiness, softwood, cherry nuts, some floral notes. It's really balanced. Try the mouth. It's got soft woodiness, almost pencil shavings, caramel, some lemon, and a light bitterness, and a very light saltiness coming from that talisker that's in there. And on the finish, a light spiciness, artificial fruits, peached iced tea, a touch of bitter herbs, and some sticky honey. So I will admit, I'm not much of a fan of Johnnie Walker. Uh, and I must say, I find some of these bottles very expensive for what they are. And there's better bottles to be found for the same price or cheaper. This is the first time I've tasted Johnnie Walker Green Label. And I thought the nose was very nice, a fresh scent with recognisable fruits such as apples. The taste, I'm not sure. I just found it a little astringent, and the finish as well quite astringent. So it's probably not one for me. The Johnnie Walker Green Label. I'm going to cleanse my palate now. So next up, we have Chivas Regal XV 15 bottle at 40%, which was first unveiled in 2018. Chivas Regal XV is a 15-year-old blended Scotch whisky, which contains grain as well as malt whisky, and it's been finished in casks that previously held Grand Champagne cognac. And whisky makers are slowly beginning to use cognac casks for maturation more and more these days. And I reckon it's an interesting trend as it helps to bring vibrant fruit notes and rich oak to the fore. This one retails at around £42.50 a bottle. So this is from the Pernod Ricard Chivas Brothers stable. And it's a nice colour. That's quite thin tears in this one. It's a little darker than the last one. So yeah, this is powerful orange and peach notes. Lots of peach. Backed up by juicy barley. It's a classic Chivas Regal. It's light and it's sweet. Some oak and barley notes blend with the fruity touch. Some light orange marmalade notes, but that peach and then sultana fragrance. Fruity sweetness and toasted oats. There's bits of creamy oak, oranges, cinnamon and brown sugar, brandy soaked sultanas. And there's a green floral note in the background. It's clean, elegant, and inviting. We'll try the mouth. Butterscotch, red apple, and caraway. There's a touch of grain sweetness in the background. It's light on the palate with some toasted notes. It starts sweet with caramel, butter cookies, and a touch of grain. And that's followed by a red apple note, which gives it a fruitier side. There's some oak, pepper, and dried fruit. It's not quite as sweet as the nose would suggest. There's hints of grain and apples with cinnamon. There's a luxurious mouthfeel to this whiskey. It's silky smooth and very drinkable. I'm only getting the slightest hints of the cognac cask. Enough to make it noticeable, but it's not the most complex dram, but it's very approachable. And it's quite heavy vanilla and pear on the finish. It's quite short and sweet with a light spicy touch. Um, Cinnamon, toasted oak, and soft fruity notes. It's quite warming. I'm going to try 5 drops of water in this. Yeah, it's staying crystal clear, so no Scotch mist there. And it's sweet. Lots of ripe apples, buttered toast. It's a bit grainy. Vanilla, honey, ripe orange peel, a hint of ginger, pinch of herbs, raisins, and a bit of milk chocolate, and a subtle note of oak. Try the mouth. It, it's sweet and smooth. There's a lot of ripe apples and vanilla at the beginning. And after a while, there's a delicate bitterness of oak with a hint of ginger, milk chocolate, and a pinch of herbs. And again, a bit grainy. I think water surprisingly extends the finish a little. Uh, becomes medium length. There's a delicate oak bitterness with ripe apples, a note of ginger, vanilla, and a bit of milk chocolate. So this is a whiskey that will surely be interesting to those Chivas fans out there, and and possibly even for those who are just starting on the whiskey world. It would be a great dessert whiskey after a nice family meal. It's a really nice whiskey, and the cognac finish, I think, it suggests that it's luxurious. However, it remains easy drinking. It's not overly complicated or intimidating, but it's a very approachable whiskey. I'll cleanse my palate. So next we have and again, I'm working from a sample, a 3 cl sample of Johnnie Walker Blue Label, bottled at 42%. So the Johnnie Walker Blue Label story begins in 1987 when the Distillers Company launched Johnnie Walker Oldest. And it quickly became known as Blue Label for obvious reasons, the slight blue tinge to the bottle and the label being blue. And, and it's a blend of rare malt and grain whiskies bottled without an age statement, uh, with a stylishly retro packaging that echoes the 19th century Johnnie Walker bottle. Though it's expensive, or perhaps because it was expensive, it proved an instant hit. By 1997, it was selling 50,000 cases globally. As a known currency throughout the world, it's perhaps the ultimate gift whiskey. You know you've done a good job, or your in laws approve when you receive a bottle. Blue Label is drawn from unparalleled Diageo reserves of maturing malt and grain whiskies from across four regions: Highland, Lowland, Speyside, and Islay, including ghost distilleries that Johnnie Walker has privileged access to. And it retails at around £180 a bottle. So let's see. Well, it's a nice colour, coppery gold. And it has nice tears. And it's well balanced. Dessert and sweet with a breath of freshness. Milk chocolate, delicate sherry accents, dried plum, and there's a lot of honey, raisins, a handful of fresh nuts, a breath of fresh herbs and spices, with very light notes of smoke far in the background. It's fragrant and it's got a good body. There are some notes of oak, crisp spice, dried fruit, pastries, berry fruits, aniseed, hints of cedar, a touch of spice and citrus. And it's 40% ABV, but it's surprisingly strong for the ABV. And there's balance, and there's maybe way in the background, there's maybe a whiff of peat smoke. But you get lots of sherry, creme brulee with tropical nuts, tropical fruits. Very nice. Try them out. And it's delicate and smooth at the beginning. And after a while, there's a slight sweetness and bitterness of oak with nuts and dark chocolate and a hint of dried fruit, honey, a bit of vanilla, and a pinch of dried herbs and spices. It's supple and balanced. Got a good toffee and hints of very wistful smoke, chocolatey, hints of grass, and a good hit of malt, but not astringent anyway. It's rich, sweet, spicy, peaty, sherry bitterness with a bit of vanilla. Nothing stands out, but it's very harmonic and a lot of taste for 40% ABV. And the finish is floral, oaky. It's of a good length. And it's urged on by a plume of very well kept Highland style smoke. There's some dried fruit, spice, honey, and it's medium to long the finish. There's some spices, bitterness, dryness, and a sort of nutty dark chocolate, oaky bitterness, and a pinch of spices. I'm going to try 5 drops of water in this. Dare I say, there's a touch of Scotch mist in this one. So now I get walnuts, sweet pastries, some dried fruits, and again that subtle smoke. And now I get a bit more old paperiness and old leatheriness. So there's some sherry casks in here. And the finish, sorry, the palate is filled with smoky, sweet, salty vanilla and citrus notes. And finish is floral, oaky, uh, and of a good length. Uh, Smoky with oak, vanilla, and malty echoes, with a strong influence of oak and hot pepper, and a nutty bitterness, and a hint of the blend, the grain alcohol. So, Johnnie Walker Blue Label is one of the ultimate premium blends. Blue Label is a legend and will continue to be so. And no matter how you come across Blue Label, the presentation is always going to be impressive. There's a variety of sizes available from sampler collections to 1.75 litre oversized bottles. And even the smaller sampler sized bottles are typically offered in elaborate gift boxes, complete with a card and envelope to further personalise the gift. The transparent bottles have a subtle blue hue to them, through which the whiskey inside takes on shades of vibrant green in addition to gold. Uh, each bottle of Blue Label is individually numbered on the lower label, parallel to the base. There's unlikely to be significant debate as to whether Blue Label is a good whiskey. It is very good and probably worthy of being considered an exceptionally good whiskey, especially amongst whiskies in continuous production and so widely available. The real question becomes whether Blue Label is worth the price it commands, especially while considering it is in continuous production and so widely available. The rareness comes not so much from the unlikelihood of encountering a bottle, but rather from one's willingness to hand over a not insignificant amount of money to add a bottle to one's own bar. I know for myself that the question is not whether I would like to leave a store with a fresh bottle of Blue Label under my arm, but rather when I will feel the time is right to do so. After all, there's always a bottle sitting behind the cash register. The challenge becomes one of identifying an appropriate circumstance under which to finally make the investment. Once made, it would be an easy one to live with. I'm not sure I would ever commit to spending 100. What was it again? How much is a bottle of this stuff? Yes, it's about £180 a bottle. Yeah, I'm not sure I'd ever commit to spending that for a bottle of this myself. A lovely gift, special gift to someone perhaps that would be talked about and hopefully appreciated. I'm gonna cleanse my palate again. So next up we have the Berry Brothers and Rudd, the Perspective Series 21-year-old, bottled at 43%. Now, this is a 21-year-old blended Scotch whisky from Berry Brothers and Rudd, released as part of the Perspective series, where master blender Doug McKeever worked with the photographer Lindsay Robertson to bring together art and whisky. This expression is considered a gentle, fresh, and fruity, with its corresponding image boasting a scene of Sandwood Bay on the northwest coast of Scotland, which is a beautiful, beautiful bay with beautiful beaches. It's quite a trek to get in there. You're about 5 miles in, 5 miles back. The path is maintained by the John Muir Trust, and vehicles don't get along it. I would recommend taking good walking shoes, good waterproofs in case the weather can just change in a moment there, and maybe take some of this along in a hip flask and just take in one of the most spectacular places in Scotland and probably the world, if I'm being honest. So, some sherried Speyside malt forms the core here, which should give us classic fruitcake touches. And there's also hopefully some beguiling sweet white chocolate notes, so which would be indicative of long matured grain whisky. Uh, so remember, the 21 years old is the youngest whisky that's gone into this blend. It retails at around £85, and it's a nice colour. Not terribly dark, but repeatedly it has quite a nice sherried influence. Very thin tears in it, I must say. I would presume, being an independent, it's probably not coloured and probably not chill filtered. We'll find out perhaps in a little while. And I get sherried dried fruits, rich chocolate, and a hint of leather, and a generous helping of baking spices. walnuts and macadamia nuts. And raisins. And you can feel the grain, which affects it in a very delicate way. I'll try them out. And there's lots of fruit in the beginning, starting with apples and pears, and then you get vanilla and these toffees and dark chocolate, and spicy notes again like cinnamon, ginger, and a bit of oak. Think of apples, lemon, oranges, and pineapples, and next notes of honey and fruity toffees, and a little hint of caramel. Creamy vanilla builds into distinct oaky tones, alongside both fresh orchard fruit and dried fruit, with a drizzle of honey. It's pleasantly oily, this one. Delicate macadamia nuts, corn, barley, and very light smoke in the background. It reminds me a little of Johnnie Walker's Blue Label that we just had, actually. And I get, on the finish, creamy notes, which continue into a lengthy finish with a hint of tannic oak and sherry. It's a short finish, but extremely balanced, with notes like apples, leaves, and cinnamon. I'm going to try 5 drops of water in this. And it's fresh and fruity. Um, and I do get quite a bit of Scotch mist in this. And it's fresh and fruity. Fruit gums, pear, oak, honey, ripe dragon fruit, barley sugar. It's a nice nose. And I get a sweet arrival. You can taste the age with this blend. And the sherry, the old oak, the red fruit, dark honey, cherries in syrup, vanilla, and yellow fruit. And with water, the finish is medium and fruity, with dark honey and oak spices. If you'd given this to me blind, I would be struggling to identify this as a blended whiskey. It's got grain whiskey in it, but I really would find it difficult to distinguish this as simply a blended whiskey. I think I would have thought it was a Tamdhu. with the sherry casking, and probably a 12 to 15-year-old Tamdu, and probably I thought the strength was more than 43%. So hats off to them. And in that avenue, or in that vein, I've always been a great admirer of great blended whiskies. And above all, this is an excellent and pleasant blend to drink at any time of day or night. So, last one. I better cleanse my palate. So, our final one tonight in the Battle of the Blends 2 is Old Perth Cask Strength, bottled at 58.6%. This one's bottled by Morrison Brothers. And it's a cask strength edition of the sherry matured Old Perth blended malt. So it's a blended malt without any grain. And with the sherry matured, it should bolster those earthy, spicy notes at a healthy 58.6%. And as with all Old Perth whiskies, it's bottled without chill filtering or colouring. It's a blended malt, no grain, and it retails around £46 a bottle. So, one of the lesser expensive whiskies that we've tasted tonight. You can see the colour is darker, so this is definitely the sherry matured influence coming out. That's quite ripe. Fermented pears and apples, and there's a slight sulphurousness, matchstick, struck matches, a tart cherry notes. And fully ripe apples with cinnamon and raisins, vanilla, cherries, cocoa, a bit of leatheriness, and then toffee pennies. It's musty. Touch of dunnage there. Cherry jam and bundles of dried fruit. And I get a yeastiness too. With red fruit, and again those cherries and plums as well. And there's spices, ginger, vanilla, caramel, and plums, and traces of dried fruits as well. And sweet red fruits, raspberries, blueberries, and even some milk chocolates. But in the background, all that mustiness, leatheriness as well. Interesting. Try them out. Initially, it's sweet, and then you get it's strongly spicy with a touch of ginger and sherry notes of dried fruit. And this is all brown sugar. It's quite sweet. Cherries, pickled peaches, and some dried fruit, possibly dates. And it's quite dry now. And it's got that earthy root ginger spice and a cinnamon stick and toasted barley. Lots of dried fruit. Notes of almost sour fruit, citrus, sour cherries or sour plums, and some more bitter notes, oak, cocoa, uh, dark chocolate, lots of spices, and dark chocolate. That, you know, the dark chocolate infused with chili oil or chilies. Dark chocolate with chili. And on the finish, brandy soaked raisins and burnt brown sugar, dark chocolate, cocoa, and piercing sour notes. Lots of spices, ginger, chili, traces of red or dry fruit. And it's a long finish. Salted caramel, raisins, and an oak seasoning there. I'm going to try 6 drops of water in this. And this one has quite a bit of Scotch mist. And water brings out marzipan, cinnamon sugar, amontillado sherry, kiln smoke, and noble rot. That sort of musty grapiness. And there's a robust, earthy nose with warm copper, cinnamon, ginger, and delicious warm berries and cherries. And I also get some Eastern influences from baklava emerging here. And those 6 drops of water, it's much creamier. There's whispers of cinnamon buns too, burnt sugar, and tin travel sweets from a service station. Our Bro Smokies, and a wonderful classic sherry whiskey with warming oak, raisins, and currants. And again, that wonderful spicy influence. This is really quite nice, you know. It's given it blind, I would struggle. This one's a blended malt, so it has no grain in it. So I'm not detecting any grain whiskey in this at all. Um, I would again be going down one of the darker space sides, not Glenfarclas, perhaps one of the Craig Craigellachie's since Billy Walker took over. Uh, it's that kind of ilk. And the finish is like pearl sugar, vanilla, the tongue stays warm for quite a long time with that full combination of herbs and dried fruit. So this is a nice blend. It's strong, but not unpleasant, with a taste of chocolate and fruits and a great long-lasting finish. It's quite mouth-watering, actually. And it's a blend with single malt whiskies aged entirely in ex Oloroso casks from distilleries in the Glenlivet region that are famous for their sherry cask maturation. And it's almost a sherry bomb. It's it's a cheap buy for sherry drinkers or sherry cask matured whiskey drinkers. However, it's quite oily on the nose. It's got a sort of Craigellach-y Glenfarclas vibe going on there. So, comparing this to the first batch of blends when we had cheaper blended whiskies, these were all better balanced and more complex whiskies than I tasted in the first cheaper battle of the blends. Uh, do we get what we pay for? Well, the Johnnie Walker Blue Label is very expensive, and I would recommend trying the drama. It's very pleasant, but I'm not sure I would recommend buying a whole bottle of. I'd buy a single malt rather than a bottle of Johnnie Walker Blue Label every day. Uh, the Johnnie Walker Green Label is not uh, a peathead's whiskey. It's not that peaty, though it's got Cunningham and Talisker in it. The Old Perth is a sherry bomb for Glenfarclas, Craigellach, I think I mean Glenallach actually, lovers. And Chivas 15 XB is a good sherry dram for pleasant evening. And the one I've just tasted, the Old Perth, I think is one really I would go back to and investigate. And at the price it is, I'd probably go and think about buying that. And the Berry Brothers and Rudd one, uh, probably one for the special occasions. But I'm not convinced. I would see. Uh, I would go for any of these as an alternative to a really good single malt Scotch whisky. That's my opinion. And well, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.